Dr. Cain, welcome back to the podcast. I've lost track of the number of times. Whatever it is, it's not enough. It's never
I was
enough.
to say, not enough.
Not enough by far. You are one of my favorite guests. You have the knowledge. I've said this every time. You have the knowledge that I want in life. So every time I get to talk to you, I get to pick your brain. Everyone gets to hear it. Who doesn't want to live a happier and healthier life? And you are basically the author of that. How has your book been? How's your book tour been? All that stuff with Panic Proof.
Thank you for asking. And thank you for your
Yeah.
support with Panic Proof and getting to
Yeah.
talk about it and share the word. Ryan, it has been the most amazing experience. I've talked to so many people around the world, and there's been lots of tears on both sides just about how powerful this stuff is, about the hope that we can actually heal from anxiety and panic. And it's just been a great experience. I've loved talking about this book. It's like my favorite thing. People have a new kid, they like want to talk about their kid. This is
Yeah.
how I feel about this book. It's like I
Yeah.
just want to talk about it. It's
Yeah,
been fun.
except it's not 9 months in the making. It's probably more so like 9 years in the making and then some, right? Like this is like all of your knowledge and studies all in one location. And that has to mean so much. I know it means so much to people. Since we've had our conversations over the last few years, I've become a little more aware of anxiety, what it is to me, how it shows up
Yeah.
in me when I have it, and also the people around me that suffer from panic attacks and have anxiety and stuff. So like I'm more aware of it now. And now I'm more aware of some of the tools that we've talked about and how to take care of it. And I'm also like more empathetic towards the people that actually have to deal with this. It's one of those things where it's like, why are you anxious about this? Not a big deal. Why worry about this? It's not really in their control. It's something they can't really control. So, like you said, there's tears and give people hope. I completely understand that now. That's something a few years ago I really probably wouldn't have related to. So I completely get that.
Oh, that makes me happy to hear. Is I grew up in a culture in the Midwest. I don't know if you resonate with this where you are, but we were told kind of that uh, classic pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
especially when it's invisible. And so if somebody has a cast on their foot and they don't want to walk, most people from the culture I grew up in, they're like, oh, okay, well, you get a pass because you got a boot on.
Right.
But when it comes to something that can be largely invisible, like our heart racing or our stomach churning or our thoughts just looping, is it's inside of the person. And so having that education in the community and us talking about it and giving it a voice can really help to support those that are suffering with anxiety, which is an antidote in and of itself, is finally speaking about it and acknowledging it and then working on processing and healing.
Now, you said something about like pull yourself by your bootstraps, and that just reminds me of being a male. Now, you're a
Yeah.
female and I'm a male. That's one of those things where as a boy, you're kind of taught to suck it up, keep moving on, just deal with it. From your research, how does anxiety between male and female differ and perhaps where do they connect?
Well, I honor that. First of all, before I dive into it, I really want to honor your experience and showing how to be a strong masculine male that is also emotionally intelligent and curious and inquisitive, because I
Right.
think we can have both. And so I honor you for representing that. And I know you're a dad, and
Yeah,
it's even more important for you to own the masculine and the feminine aspects of what it is to be a man and
very
asking that
much.
question.
Very
So
much.
I see you with that. And when we think about anxiety and how it shows up, it's a combination of nature and nurture. Because people are always like, is it nature? Is it your genes? Is it your epigenetics? Is it your biology? Or is it nurture? Is it how society raised you, how it told you to be? And we find with anxiety, it's largely both. And what I see commonly in the men that I work with, which of course there's a selection bias that they've either been brought in to talk to me because of their family members or they've self elected to come in to see me. But I see a lot more men who somaticize the anxiety. So it doesn't necessarily come to the surface mentally and emotionally, but rather that gets sent into like I'm having back pain. Well, when does the back pain show up? Well, I'm really stressed at work. Tell me about your
Mm,
stress at work. Well, I'm really feeling completely overwhelmed, under supported, and I'm afraid I'm going to fail. And I have all this pressure on my shoulders. And when I experience that, it shows up in my back.
mm,
So it's somaticizing. So I see a lot of men that their main thing is pain or inflammation, but really at the root of it is this autonomic arousal, this fear response, this activation response, this anxiety response. So, of course, that can happen. Like all people can experience all symptoms and signs, but body symptoms are the main thing for men. I see.
interesting. That does make a lot
Yeah.
of sense when you break it down like that. Now, you said nature versus nurture. If we had a pie chart of 100%, is it 50-50? Is it lean one way compared to the other? Because I've heard from, Gary Brecka.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does he say, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, does he say anxiety is genetic?
I have to look and see what he says. That's going to be in the show notes. We'll know by the end of the visit
Okay,
today.
perfect. Yeah,
He
because
says it's genetic.
I want to say I want to say that he says it's genetic. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because you said nature versus nurture.
Yeah. We can test genes and you can do sibling studies and you can do twin studies. And there will always be something that is going to activate or deactivate gene expression. And so this is the study of genetics versus epigenetics. And the metaphor I like to use to make it a little bit simpler to understand is think of a light switch. You go into a room, we all have the same set of light switches, but depending on if they're turned on and off and which ones and where they're located, the experience of going into the room will be different. So I think it's hard to say that you have a genetic predisposition, but not to talk about how the environment is activating that
Mm.
predisposition epigenetically. Was that, did that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I'm just trying to, I'm more familiar with the people around me that have more instilled anxiety from environment, more of
Yeah.
the nurture part than I
Yeah.
think the nature part. So I'm more familiar with that. But it was like once I started hearing him talk about that, I was like, is that true? How is that even possible? I don't even know. But I did wanted to get your opinion on that when I thought about it.
Well, so recently I just did this whole teaching in my Holistic Wellness Collective membership group about this. And the question that someone was asking is, could my genes be impacting the way that I feel? And I said, yes, absolutely. So what
Hmm.
I ended up doing is I went back and I got my genetic report. And so I did before, I probably wouldn't do it now, but back in the day, I did 23andMe. And now I'm like, oh, worried about privacy and all of that. But
I have it too.
neither,
Whoop.
yeah, we did it back in the day. Sorry, sorry. So I ended up uploading that years later into Ben Lynch's software. And what he has is he's able to take the raw genetic data and then look at how that can impact us clinically in our day to day lives.
Okay.
And so, one of the genes that was tested that I went back and I re saw with eyes that know more than I did back in the day, is I have a mutation on my COMT, my COMT gene. And so that's a light switch on the wall. And what can happen with that gene is it can get activated or it can get deactivated. So it can speed up metabolism or can slow down metabolism depending on your environment. And this particular gene is for anxiety because one of its jobs is to break down estrogens, break down dopamine, break down adrenaline. So if this gene is sped up, then it's going to break down more dopamine and break down more adrenaline and break down more estrogen, meaning that my levels of those things may be lower. Or the gene could do the opposite. It could slow way down. And so if I have a lot of exposure to histamine or if I take certain medications or if something in my life is changing, that gene could slow way down. And then now I may have a backup and lots of dopamine or a backup and lots of adrenaline or lots of estrogen. And so what his software does, and I don't have any affiliation with his software, so this is not a sales pitch for those listening. But what was interesting to me is I saw that I had a mutation on that gene and I was like, I wonder if this gene is affecting me and how. And so for many genes, we're able to know, okay, here's a light switch here. How is this light switch flipped on or off? And
Mm,
so that's called an epigenetic test. So then I went in and I looked at my most recent Dutch test. And a Dutch test is at dutch.com, DUTCH, and it's a comprehensive hormone test. And it's a urine test, and your doctor can order it, or you can get it online through Rupa or different places. And it actually will show you the level of activity of your COMT gene and how it's breaking down estrogen. And so I saw that the estrogen wasn't getting broken down as efficiently. So that tells me that that gene may be a little bit sluggish. And so then we can start thinking about, okay, why might my COMT be sluggish? How might that affect me? Oh, it makes me more overstimulated in cities. It makes me more overstimulated with air traffic noise. It makes me more stimulated with lights and screens. And so then when I think about that, I very much resonate with it, where I've been longing for that stillness and to just go into the woods and not talk to anybody or hear any city traffic or any of that. So now we have this genetic test, we have this epigenetic data, and we have our lived experience.
mm.
So then we can start creating treatment protocols that are supporting us genetically and epigenetically. So we support, in my example, detoxification, and we support giving minerals that help with COMT and changing my environment to help with COMT so that that gene is working better. And that's like the precision stuff that's interesting as we like zoom out and ask that question, is it nature or nurture?
I love this. This having a conversation like this makes me sad and disappointed. And I'm not going to like live long enough to see the technology we're going to have in like 100 years. That's just going to be absolutely insane. Like it's already come such a long way. Um, so you said at the very end, there's like minerals and stuff that you can do. Can you ever get the gene to the way perhaps it should have been in the first place, or unmutate it, or once it's mutated, it's kind of that way, and perhaps you're just trying to control it a little bit?
We have a lot of control to change gene expression. And oftentimes that's through, which is like getting into a lot of complex physiology, but that would be like through acetylation, which is how our liver detoxes and the acetylation pathway. So we can support that if we see that sluggish. We can do phosphorylation, we can do methylation. And so we have ways that we know with physiology and biochemistry to measure and then change the behavior of the genes. But we don't have a lot of great technology, like you were saying, to actually go back and change the genes themselves. Although I was just watching a video of a scientist who is putting silicone molecules in place of carbon molecules in DNA strands in animal studies to then change the gene itself, which
Wow.
is like a whole world that I am not qualified to even have an opinion on, but was fascinating.
Is this in any relation to like CRISPR at all?
Ooh, it might be. I'll look it up and I'll find it for you. CRISPR.
Yeah,
I'll have
CRISPR.
to write that down. Ooh, DNA, DNA editing. Oh, that's an abbreviation for clustered, regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats.
Yes, it is. It's an acronym. I'm glad you said it because there's no way I was going to remember that.
I love that you know about all these things. So it could very much be this is sounds like this. So it's precisely cutting DNA and then harnessing natural DNA repair process to modify the gene in the desired manner. That is so interesting and so cool. And just imagine because I did a video like a year ago about how we're finding genes that we believe to be associated with familial inheritance patterns of anxiety. So it's like you're anxious, your grandfather was anxious, his grandfather was anxious. And so we know there's probably something genetically.
Mm,
If we can isolate and correct that gene, why the heck not? Or if we're having kids and we can go in and like
exactly.
robotic make our kids not have anxiety. That's like Gattaca. Now we're getting into Gattaca.
Well, I remember hearing years ago on a podcast, I think we're past the time this guy had said we're going to be doing this, but he said we're going to be choosing the DNA for a lot of our children. And at some point, when you start eradicating diseases and stuff like that, you're going to be looked at sideways if you're choosing not to do it because you're taking the chance of possibly passing down mutations or diseases or anything that we're kind of talking about. And obviously we're
Yeah.
not there yet, but it's amazing to think we might be living in a lifetime where that's actually happening. It's just mind blowing.
Being able to change our epigenetics, I think is just incredible. And that's something that my parents didn't have access to that information. And I know that their parents didn't have that.
Right.
So we are in this like incredible golden age of information. Information used to be in libraries, in schools, and experts, and it was really highly protected and regulated. But now it's like, especially with AI, where you can access all of this information just in the snap of a finger, I feel like we're going to see such a huge growth curve of advancements, whether we could have a whole ethical conversation. Is this
Right.
good, is this bad? But I think we're going to see just an explosion of education and information.
Ooh, it's amazing, but it's also so dangerous. There's so much misinformation floating around there. So I love having a conversation with you. I know it's coming from a good
Yeah.
place. You're well studied, you're well researched. But yeah, you see the craziest stuff online. People think it's true, and then it's just like it's
Yeah.
absolutely not. And yeah, it's what a disaster. We don't need to go down that road.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I would come back on again and we'll keep going down this road. I do want to talk to you about some things in this area, but I remember
Yeah.
during our last conversation in the middle of it, we were talking about some of my anxieties, and I have this one major one that sticks with me. And you said, let's talk about that. Let's dive deeper into that. So I really
Yeah.
want to do that. So my big anxiety has always been a fear of heights, more so specifically like cliffs and ledges. And you said something that really stuck out to me. You were the first person to say it. Was I remember 5 years ago now, I think it was. I'm driving along in Idaho. I'm in the mountain, Sawtooth Mountains. I'm by myself going up this windy road alongside a mountain with no freaking guardrail, and I'm getting ready to panic. I'm freaking out. I can't see the people coming the other way, and I'm on the right side, which is near the ledge. And I'm like, I'm literally straddling the middle of this road, saying like, please God, don't send a car my way because I might get hit head on. I do not want to be near this ledge. You said something in you makes you feel like you're going to turn the wheel off the cliff. What the hell? You were the first person to say that because it's like, I know I'm not going to do that, but why do I feel like I can just fall off this cliff right now or get blown off the cliff? And I'm holding on to I was white knuckling at this 20, 25, 30 minutes. I had hand cramps when I was done. I was seriously like having like, I don't want to say it was a panic attack, but it was pretty damn close. And like the whole hot air balloon thing we could talk about too as well. But you said something like something in you says you're going to just steal the wheel right off the cliff. What is that? I want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's called Call to the Void, which is a French, it's originated from a French term, which I won't embarrass myself by trying to say. But it's this impulse that we have to hurl ourselves over ledges, or it's like you get this jerk, like I could jump, I could do it, or I could swerve this car. And it's called to the void. It's a very common phenomenon.
Why? Why do I have this? Does everybody have this? Or is this like some people have it? Where does this come from? What is this?
Yeah. More than I think I saw a study and it was more than 50% of people who, and they did the study and it was people who weren't wanting to unalive themselves. It wasn't anything like that.
No,
It's
not at
just
all.
they say have these thoughts and these impulses. So you have these people who are otherwise happy, healthy, and neurotypical, and then they just have this like this urge. Um, and it seems to be more common in people who are anxious,
Mm.
which it's an interesting, the fact that you feel concerned about it is good though, as opposed to like I want to do that, I want to
Yeah,
go
no, I
there.
don't want to do any of that at all. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Plus, like when I like, I take a lot of these hiking trips, and I'll get to the top of the mountain and I just can't look over. I seriously feel like I'm gonna get blown off. If I go to the
Yeah.
ledge, even if there's like a little nice gentle breeze, I feel like I'm gonna get blown off. Is that in the same ballpark or is that just a different type of anxiety?
So when you have each of these experiences, and there's a little bit of nuance to them, but like when you imagine like, I'm just going to jerk the steering wheel and you do that, what follows? So you have the urge. And then what happens after you have the urge? Like immediately, you're driving the car, you have the urge.
Yeah, I think it's just the complete 180. Yeah, it's just like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then I think I just start gripping a little tighter.
So it's protective, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you become more vigilant. So you become hyper vigilant. You become even more focused. You have this adrenaline rush. You have this fear response. That fear response is self preservation. The brain isn't concerned about your well being, it's concerned about your survival.
Right.
And so you have this response that will then reliably produce fear. So you're on a cliff, you're on the top of a mountain, and you anticipate, what if there's a gust of wind and I'm not prepared for that and I fall? Or what if I just jump? Then you have that same arousal pattern that actually protects you and makes you even more hypervigilant from something like that happening. So it's your body is trying to protect you, is my guess.
Is there different levels to this? Because I feel like my palms are a little sweaty, even like thinking about some of this
Yeah.
stuff. And like, so like when your hands get sweaty, a lot of times my fingers will get tingly. I'll have to kind of like calm
Yeah.
myself down, shake my hands out, take deep breaths. Like, is that is that a severe level? Like, where am I in like a scale of 1 to 10 as far as like I'm in trouble, little bit of a panic attack?
Well, panic attacks, for those who are listening, panic attacks aren't harmful, and panic is just data. And I want to teach you something right now, and it's called amygdala deamplification. Do you want to
Okay.
do this?
Yeah,
It's going to be
yes, I do.
it's going to be so good. So this will be really beneficial for those who want a tool to literally reprogram your amygdala. So what's happening, Ryan, is that you had this really scary experience. Your amygdala, this is the part of the brain that processes emotions. And the amygdala was like, oh, dang, we're in serious danger. You were theoretically in danger. Someone could have come cruising around that curve, hit you. You could have rolled off the mountain. You didn't. But the amygdala is like, this is dangerous. We need to remember this. So then when you talk about it, those memories are getting activated. And then your body is starting to respond as
Mm.
though it is happening again. So your hands get sweaty, your fingers get a little tingly. You're like, oh my gosh, how high am I towards having a panic attack? So we found through the gift of neuroplasticity that you can literally de-amplify your amygdala and reprogram your brain to be calm. So what does that mean in simple terms? Think of an amplifier. You know, you plug your guitar in. You play guitar, right?
I do not play guitar, but I know people who do. I know what you're
You
talking
know
about.
people. I think I just imagined in back one of your videos with me once you had a guitar, but I probably just thought you were such a rock star. I put it there.
Appreciate
So
that.
it's like Brian plays the guitar. You don't. That's okay. You've seen a guitar. And so when you want to go and you want to play guitar so that all can hear, you want to amplify the sound. You plug it in, the sound gets amplified, it gets bigger. This is the same kind of concept with amygdala de-amplification. The amygdala is really amplified right now. It's really big. We can bring up physical sensations, memories of this driving on the mountain. And I told you we could reprogram that. We're going to do that today. The
Great.
other thing that's really cool about this technique that I'm going to teach you is that it will create more connections to your prefrontal cortex. And so this is the area behind your forehead. And that's where you have your present adult rational, logical processing abilities. Here's the thing, when amygdala gets really loud and amped, it will override logical brain. And so that's why when we get triggered or activated, we feel like we forget things, our thoughts are spinning, it's hard to talk ourselves out of it, it's hard to quote pull yourself up by your bootstraps because your body doesn't care about your well-being, it cares about your survival, right?
Mm.
So this technique is not only going to calm down the amygdala, but it's going to create more connections from that memory to the logical part of your brain so that you can then create the experience that you want as opposed to living on the autopilot, right?
Sounds amazing. I've wondered this after listening to our conversation again. It's kind of like if I reprogram myself and I'm on like the edge of a cliff, am I gonna like look down and be like, I used to be scared of this, or I am freaking scared of this still? Like, like I'm so curious to know how reprogramming works, knowing that it's something I've been afraid
Yeah.
of my entire life.
What is something, do you do anything that would maybe make your wife a little nervous that you're like, this is fun, like air balloons or driving really fast or skiing? Like, do you do anything
I'm
like
sure I
that?
do. She tells me to watch the speed limit often. How do she's well, the thing is, she's climbed rocks and stuff. She does the via ferratas and stuff, so she handles the heights and shit that I don't do better. But
Uh-huh.
however, I am I on the ground, I'm a more of a wing it and forget it type of thing, and she's not, if that makes sense. But yeah, I would say more need for speed, if you will. She can go
Uh-huh.
high, I can go fast.
So you're going fast. And when is an example of a time when you were going fast and you were okay?
Oh, I can't remember. It's been so long that we have a kid.
I know, right? You're like,
I don't do that
birthday, it's
anymore now.
going to be a year and 5 days. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
So this will be an interesting question for you to kind of noodle on after our
Hmm.
conversation is when you have that need for speed and you're going really fast and you're zooming, maybe like if you were to do a drag, like if you were to go to a racetrack and drive really fast and you're the
Hmm.
one behind the wheel, can you have you ever done anything like that before?
Um, Not technically, but
Rural
I've been in
roads, zooming.
situations like yes, I've been in situations similar.
Okay, pull up one of those situations in your mind
Hmm.
and try to remember what it felt like in your body in that situation.
Hmm. Okay.
What are you bringing up? What are you noticing?
So there was this road, years and years ago. It's called Town Line back up in New York where I grew up, where if you took it fast enough, you will levitate with the car. And so I did that. I think my dad's listening to this. Sorry, Dad. I know you didn't know that. Um,
So you Michael J. Foxed your car. You're
yes,
like,
it levitated for a second, and then once it landed, that wasn't fun because that was a little of a nerve-wracking situation. But yeah, okay. So I'm thinking of that moment right now.
so you're levitating.
Yeah.
What is that feeling? What is in your body?
I would say anxiousness and nervousness. It's cool because of the experience I never had before. Um, but also it's kind of like, oh crap, when I land, am I gonna be okay? I'm trying to think of like that moment. And it was like, I'm doing this, I know what I'm doing. I'm behind the wheel, so I'm in control. So I felt good about it. But then once I levitated, I think it was more of a, uh-oh.
What did I do?
What did I do? Yeah.
So right before the oh, what did I do? There was this like I'm in control. And what other sensations? I don't want to put words in your mouth. There's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
I'm thinking of, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It's more of I mean it's like an adrenaline rush, but in like a positive way. It's kind of like
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was more the fact that I was driving because I've been in the passenger side where things like that happen. I'm freaking squeezing on for dear life. But if I'm driving, it's like I'm in control. I feel like yeah, a little euphoric kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, but then like once I said, once I levitated, it was like, I was not expecting, I was not expecting that. I
Yeah.
lost control, right? I lost control.
Control.
Yeah.
That is it. That is exactly it.
Yeah.
So feeling power and control is the antidote to anxiety. So
Hmm.
you had this rush of euphoria and all of the chemical processes that are causing the euphoria are the same chemical processes that when we feel out of control cause us to feel panic.
Okay. Yeah. That completely makes sense because a lot
Yeah.
of what people worry about is what the things they can't control, especially in the future, the things they don't know what's going to happen.
Yes. So what going back to the question that you asked, and then we can do this exercise
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
is I want to be standing on a cliff. And instead of feeling terror and fear and panic, like the wind is going to blow me off the cliff and I'm going to die, the feeling that perhaps we could work on pivoting that to maybe more like that empowered, euphoric kind of adrenaline excitement.
That would be the most amazing turnaround I've ever seen. That would be incredible. Like, let's say, for instance, you've been to Sedona, right? You're a few
I
hours
was
away. So,
there
like,
2 days ago.
there you
Yeah.
go. Devil's Bridge.
Yeah.
Have you done Devil's Bridge? Have you hiked that?
Yes, that is exactly it.
That's it. Boom. There you go. So I did the whole hike, felt great, and you get to the end, and I kind of like just gradually like getting onto that ledge little by little by little. And finally I was like, just take the picture. I'm here. Just take the picture and get the hell off. And I didn't
Yes.
go out as far as I could have. Like I mean, I push myself. I try, but it's like it is crippling. The word is crippling. It really is
Yeah.
crippling.
Yeah. And you also survived it.
Yeah, I did survive it.
And so you weren't crippled by this crippling experience. And so what the neuroscience would suggest is that if you did that again and again and again, that you would then reprogram the brain to feeling like I am in control. Look at all this evidence that I went out on this bridge, that I did it and I saved myself. So that's actually in Panic Proof. I have a 4-step process for how to reprogram the brain. And step 1 is getting in the body and calming. Step 2 is onboarding your logical brain. Step 3 is integrating mind and body. And step 4 is going out and doing these things that scare the hell out of you, but where you are in control, like a high ropes course where you're actually objectively safe, but it's kind of high and freaky. That would probably actually be really good for you,
Okay.
is to then start allowing yourself to become activated, to know you're in control and to rescue yourself again and again and again, because the way that you wire it is the way your body's going to fire it in those situations.
Okay.
But
So, quick question. So, one, there seems to be something to actually facing your fears, and
yeah,
two, if I did, let's say, Devil's Bridge in Sedona over and over and over and over again, that would translate to the Grand Canyon, if you will, or different environment, different scenario. I'm going to go back to how I was.
we call this systematic desensitization in the medical field. So instead of being really sensitive to that stimuli and getting activated and fearful, that we are systematically calming that every time we get closer and closer and closer to the Grand Canyon, where you can do that hike and feel completely euphoric and in control. And of course, we don't want to encourage people like go out on the Devil's Bridge and do cartwheels and be reckless.
People do that, but yeah, crazy.
Yeah, not me. So the fear is important. So this is the difference between fear and panic, or fear and anxiety. Is fear is a natural response to an appropriate dangerous circumstance. Like I'm in the woods and I hear the roar of a hungry tiger. Like you should
Right.
be afraid, because that's going to mount a response where you can fight, flight, freeze, and hopefully save your life. But standing on the top of a mountain when you know you have your hiking poles or you're clipped in, or you know you're logically far enough from the cliff, is having fear isn't useful for you because you are in control, and having anxiety isn't useful for you because it's not correct. Like you are in control. So we want you to feel happy and euphoric and empowered when you should be, and fear when you're actually in danger. So we
And
just got to reprogram that.
so we're going to get to that in just a second, but is there in reprogramming that, would you say take small steps or go to the top of the Burj Khalifa and do jump off of it and you'll cure everything? Is there anything to that too, or do you recommend small steps?
I recommend small steps because the nervous system always wants to keep you in homeostasis or in balance. And if we it's almost like if I push against, like physics dictates that if I push against this wall here, that it's going to push back with an equal and opposite pressure. Otherwise, if I push more, it will fall over, or if it pushes more, I'll get squished, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to encourage people that if you can slowly start the process of desensitization, that your nervous system won't have to work as hard to put you back into homeostasis. So that's my opinion. Is, and I see this with other types of interventions too. Like there's this intervention it's called nasal cranial release, where they stick the balloon up your nose and they inflate it. Have you heard of
Hmm.
this?
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And so they did this longitudinal study on kids, and one group of kids who were receiving these treatments, they did a type of nasal cranial release where they inflated the balloon really quickly. It was like high velocity chiropractic kind of speed intensity. And then the other group of kids, they did little slow, smaller adjustments over time. And then they compared the outcomes. And what they found is that if they were gentler with the nervous system, it did the slower, that it didn't go into a lockup kind of sympathetic fear response. And it was allowed to kind of receive the adjustment. And so those kids did significantly better than the kids that we were trying to force the nervous system with a high velocity adjustment. So
What was that
that went
for? That's not like a sinus surgery? Like what is this for? The balloon up the nose.
This study, they were using it for children who had Down syndrome, and they were
Okay.
trying to improve cerebral spinal fluid flow and the structural alignment in the bones of the skull and the head.
Wow.
And so it's amazing. And actually, we could do a whole other conversation. I'm like on a rampage about this
Yeah.
with orthodontics. So you have
I've
this,
had Invisalign for 2.5 years, so I completely understand everything about ortho. Not everything, but I understand what you're
yeah,
talking about. Yep. Yep.
where it's like squishing everything to the midline.
Yeah.
And so then the bones that are your teeth are going into the ethmoid and the cribriform plate into your skull. That's all getting crushed inward. And then our nasal airways are smaller. It's more compressed. People have a higher risk of headaches, and then it can cause downstream neck pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, and it's like a whole thing. So anyway, that nasal cranial release technique, if done by someone who's actually properly trained, can open up the brain, open up the airways,
Wow.
and it's just incredible. And I don't really know how I got onto that,
Yeah,
but
we're getting on a tangent, but what you were saying reminded me when I was younger, I actually had this thing put in my mouth that connected to both sides of my molars, and my mom or dad had to turn a key. There was a
yeah,
key in the roof of my mouth. There was a key that gradually widened my jaw so I can have like a better bite or whatever. I still had to get Invisalign a few years ago, but yeah, it
yeah,
was step by step by step that gradually widened my bite in my
that's a
jaw.
so do you have clear nasal passageways then? So you probably have a more open sinus.
Well, I was born with adenoids. So I had to have surgery when I was 8 years old. I think I was 8 years old. I had to have surgery to have my adenoids removed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
You were so little and you had to have your adenoids removed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe right. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. So that whole thing is really interesting. And so then, I'm just reflecting on how our conversation started with nature versus nurture
right.
is if you have iatrogenic trauma, which is medically induced trauma, where you had braces that prevented your head and skull from growing because you got them on before you were finished growing,
Hmm.
and you can't breathe out of the left side of your nostril, and so that's parasympathetic. And so if you're not getting air out of that, you're going to feel more anxious. And could that be structural or environmental? It's like so complicated, but that means that we can do things beyond just a pill for an ill. And the
Right.
bootstraps thing, like suddenly, oh, there's a reason why I feel this way. I can
Yes.
actually get to the root cause or causes and actually heal. That's amazing.
Well, let's do that. I know I've been putting off this exercise for the last couple minutes here. Do you want to do that?
I love, I know we're like facing some fear here. Okay. So this is the Nicole version, the Dr. Cain version of havening. And
Havening.
so havening.
Okay.
And so the word, it comes from creating a safe haven in the body. And it used to be called amygdala deamplification, which I like better because you're describing the actual process, and havening sounds a little bit, I don't know, colloquial. I
And
like
is this something that people can relate to listening to this with their own fears, not just me going through this?
yeah, we're going to do it as a whole. We're going to do it as a whole group. So everyone who's
Wonderful.
listening is going to do it. And we're only going to do a few passes because this process for some of us could take an hour, and we don't have another hour.
I wish.
But I'll walk you through the dance steps, and then you can learn how to do it on your own.
Perfect.
So amygdala deamplification is two parts. And I'll tell you what the two parts are, and then we'll do it together. So part one is going into something that's activating. So for everyone who's listening, is pick something that's like mild to moderately activating for you. So when I get an email from my boss, I get my heart picks up. Or when I think of driving on this cliff, my heart rate picks up.
Mm.
Or when I have to drive on the interstate, whatever it is for you, think about that feeling. And if you can think of a specific example, I think specifics tend to work better for people. So maybe even think of a specific moment you got an email from your boss, or a specific highway that you're afraid of driving on. And for Ryan, you're going to do the that curve on that mountain,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So part one is you're going to notice the activator. That's the activating event, the yucky feeling. And then the second part is where we de-amplify the amygdala and we create the roads to the logical brain. So how do you do that? You're going to be, during this part two process, your eyes will be closed and I will be guiding you through what to do. But essentially, you're going to be doing touch and logic. So the touch in the Havening research is you can take the palms of your hands, and if those who are listening, if you can hear the sound, I'm actually, it looks like I'm kind of like dusting my hands off,
Mm. Hmm.
or maybe rubbing lotion into my palms. And so you could do the hands, and you could just do this back and forth the whole time while we're doing the part two. Or you can dust off your shoulders. So you cross your arms in front of you, and then you just imagine dusting your shoulders off. Or the third gesture that you could do, which the research shows tends to be the most effective, but I have really cute bangs today, so I don't want to do it. But you stroke down your face. So you take your fingertips, you start with them together in your forehead, and then you just stroke down your cheeks and your chin, and you just repeat that gesture. So that's the touch part.
Mm.
Okay. So you'll pick whichever one you want to do. I'll just demonstrate it with the hands.
Okay.
So for and keep your eyes closed this whole time and I'll walk you through it. So what I want to have you do is, Ryan, I want you to notice that feeling that you got when you drove down that crazy mountain curve.
Hmm.
And tell me when you're able to pull that up.
Pretty quickly.
You're able to pull it pretty quickly. Okay,
Oh
so I
yeah.
want you to notice that in your body for about 10 seconds. You don't have to do anything about it, just notice it. Maybe notice your palms. About 5 more seconds. And just hold on to that. Okay, let's take a breath. Keep your eyes closed. And then I want to have you start doing the touch. So remember the hands, the shoulders, the face, whatever you want. And you're just going to keep repeating this touch gesture. And Ryan, can I have you count from 40 to 0 by twos out loud for me while you keep doing the gesture?
40, 38, 36, 34, 32, 30, 28, 26, 24, 22, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and 0.
That's so good. All right. Can you please say the alphabet out loud? A to Z.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Perfect. And can you spell your first and last name backwards?
Ooh,
We're going to make it complicated.
E, R, I, U, G, C, M, N, A, Y, R.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Okay. So let's have you relax your hands in your lap. Take another breath. And now I want to have you go back to that image that we worked on last. And as you pull that up, I want you to just notice it and notice anything that's different about it. And let's hold on to that for about 10 more seconds, noticing the body, the thoughts, the images, anything that's new or different. 5 more seconds. Just keep noticing. Okay, let's take a breath and go back to the touch, whether it's your hands, your shoulders, or your face. And Ryan, I would like you to name as many baseball teams as you can think of.
That's every one of them.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I'll start with my favorite, the Orioles. We'll do Yankees, Braves, Mets, Cardinals, Cubs, Marlins, Mariners, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Astros. I don't know if it Cardinals, Padres, Dodgers. What else we got? Giants, the Rays, the Blue Jays, um, the Rockies. I know I'm missing a
Those,
couple. Red
seriously.
Sox,
Wow.
the Reds, the White
Yeah.
Sox. Um, I just did most of them. There's probably a couple out there that I'm still just went over.
You noticed like 5 more than I thought of. That was really, really brilliant. I love it. And I want you to imagine that you're going to go to your favorite grocery store. You have a gift certificate and you can buy 10 things. What are those 10 things that you would want to buy at the grocery store?
Oh, um, we're probably going to Wegmans.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, 10 things. I'm assuming these don't count on my calories. So we're
Nope,
gonna
they're
do
free.
we're gonna do some pizza then. We're gonna do some pumpkin pie, lemon meringue pie. Um, Probably get some chocolate.
Uh-huh.
Sushi for sure. I'll definitely get some
Yes.
sushi. Um, I love my sweet potatoes, so I'll definitely get some sweet potatoes.
Yes.
We gotta get some steak, put that on the grill. What else we got going on here? Um, yeah, well, probably treat myself to some candy. I do like my sweets.
Good.
Whipped
Yes.
cream. I love my whipped cream. That's my guilty pleasure. So we'll do some whipped cream. We'll do some coffee as well.
Oh, that sounds like the dream cart.
Right?
That's
It's
amazing.
my dream card.
Yeah. Okay, so let's relax your hands in your lap. We'll take a breath. Then we'll go back to that image that we've been working on. Just notice it. And then can you tell me out loud what you notice about that that is a little bit different?
Are my eyes still closed?
Yes. Stay
I
there.
would say it feels like murkier, if
It's a
that
little
makes
murky.
sense. It's not quite as vivid.
It's less vivid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's harder to go back. And right when we first started this, it was easy for me to get anxious real quick. It
Yeah.
was a little
Yeah.
harder to I'm seeing the same image in my head, but it's harder to get as like ramped up about it. It just feels a little murky and not as vivid.
Yeah. And as you notice that, what is one word or a couple of words that describe how you might want to feel when you look at that image?
Calm,
Calm,
confident.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. I love both of them.
Um,
So while keeping your eyes closed, notice that image. And then let's take our hands and go back to the touch. And what I want you to do is I want you to say, I'm calm and confident. I'm calm
I'm
and confident.
calm and confident. I'm
And you're going to
calm and
keep
confident.
repeating that. And you're going to repeat that until you notice a shift in the body, whether you feel like a little bit calmer or a little bit lighter or a little bit different. So while you do the touch, I'm calm and confident.
I'm calm and confident. I'm calm and confident. Now, should I be visualizing the same image while doing this, or just think about being calm and confident?
That's such a good question. Let's have you just allow yourself the deliciousness of I'm calm and confident.
I'm calm and confident. I'm calm and confident. I'm calm and confident. I'm calm and confident. I'm calm and confident. I'm calm and confident. I like this because it's almost like you're talking to yourself, trying to help yourself up.
Yeah. And so the way that this will work is we can rest our hands in our laps, is that you go through the process of noticing the image, and then you do the haven. And then you go and you notice the image, you do the haven. And then as it changes, if there's something that's lovely that you want to experience, is then you can haven and say that out loud.
Hmm.
And then we would go back and forth. And so for today, I want to just do a little container exercise with you. So just a couple more minutes with our eyes closed is I want you to imagine at your feet is a protective container. And you might look down with your mind's eye and imagine that it's open. And this is where we're going to take what we've been working on today and we're going to set it inside for safekeeping because you deserve to rest. And sometimes we just need to set things down.
Hmm.
And so, what I want to have you do is imagine that image, and I want you to imagine breathing in a beautiful golden light and surrounding that image. Maybe almost like if you zoom out and you see that image on a TV screen or a Polaroid, you take it out of your mind and then you put that golden light around it. And then take a breath in, and then with the exhale, you're going to breathe that image into your container. And then you may look for any signs in the body of stress or worry or discomfort. Bring your mindful awareness to that part of the body. You're going to take a breath in and breathe out any of that stress into your container. And then you repeat that process for just a couple of minutes until you feel like everything is contained. And when you feel complete, you can imagine taking the lid on that container and closing it nice and tight, noticing how everything stays safely tucked inside. And then you can take that container and you can put it somewhere you would like to keep for safekeeping. And that could be you can kick it off a cliff, you can put it in my office, you can put it under the bed, or even give it to somebody that you would like to have watch over, like a loved one or a higher power. And then you can imagine doing whatever feels right. And that is how we will conclude our havening exercise. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
I kicked it off a cliff.
Right. That's that's brilliant.
Went right to the source of the fear.
Right to the source. So that's an introduction to amygdala deamplification. And so tell me how was that for you? Got a little murky.
Yeah, no, which I think was good because it
Yeah.
was my mind, as you said, focusing on things I enjoy, which is baseball, which is, the foods I enjoy eating.
Uh-huh.
It put my, and then obviously like thinking like backwards and skipping numbers and stuff like that really kind of like, it makes you focus on something else instead of obviously what's giving me anxiety. So I definitely, and then you got the touch on top of that. So it's like you're messing with other sensitives to kind of, yeah, like you rewire yourself, right? I
Yeah.
think that's probably the right way to phrase that.
You're exactly rewiring it because you're going between amygdala activation and prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is all about logic, it's all about the present moment. So when you do this exercise, You can teach your partner how to do this. You can teach your kids how to do this. And the questions I asked you are much less relevant as opposed to anything that may interest them. So I have a patient, she loves Sephora. And so when we do this exercise, she goes shopping in Sephora. And I would ask her more complicated math because math is like her thing.
Hmm.
So you can tailor this to anybody, but the dance steps are easy. You just notice a sensation, 10 seconds, go into logic brain. Sensation, logic brain, which is that, as you were asking earlier, you're kind of creeping your way systematically towards desensitization of that trigger. So you keep practicing it. You'll have this recording, and then you can just keep practicing doing that with me and then make it your own.
That's amazing. Like, it realistically, how long is the process before you really start seeing like results in a situation like this?
Yeah. Ideally, you and I would completely close that memory and you would end your first session feeling like good about
Wow.
it.
Holy shit, that
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, it can be very fast. It depends on how big of an activator it is. So somebody, that's why I want people to start practicing with things that are a little bit easier, as opposed to like when I did my first amygdala de-amplification training, I went to like my biggest trigger ever, which is sleep. And that was, it didn't build my confidence immediately in the exercise. So if you start with something small and then win, then you'll be
Yeah.
able to feel really confident in doing big things.
Do I have you for another minute? I know you got to go. If you got to
Yeah,
go,
we
you
have
got to
another
go.
couple minutes. Yeah, let's do it. Like
Okay, so the
two,
first thing
three.
that being like a sports driven person, I grew up playing sports. I watch sports all the
Yeah,
time. I love sports. I think what we just kind of did was in the realm of visualization. Like,
yeah,
what are your thoughts on visualizing like instances perhaps where athletes would get nervous, like you got to hit a free throw to win the game, but I'm doing this well in advance, like months thinking about this moment, and when it happens, I've been here before. Is that in the realm of kind of like what we just did? We're trying to bring it to the front of the mind, like, hey, I've been here before. I'm just going to go logic. I'm not going to let the panic overtake me.
yeah. Michael Phelps did that, right? He was pretty open about mindfulness and how he would visualize his sport before he did it. So and there's this interesting study. Have I ever talked to you about the piano player study?
No, would love to hear that.
Okay, this is the brain is just so cool. So they did this study. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. They did this study where they had two groups of piano players and they were, they did all sorts of statistical gobbledygook and made sure that they were like similar competencies and all that. And so there was all these like other variables that were accounted for. And so group A, they were given a piano concerto piece to learn and a piano to practice that concerto piece on. Group B were given the same learn, but they were not allowed to practice on a piano or even move their fingers. And so they gave both groups the same amount of time. And then at the end of the study, they had each individual from the groups perform the piece. And so what happened, the outcome may surprise you, is what would you guess would happen? Because now you know what's going to happen
Well, I
because
actually played it. I played the piano growing up, and just yeah, the more I practiced, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm leaning towards the other way now. But I would have imagined, the touch, the feel, the sound, the music, and the rhythm of your fingers would help
yeah,
you do it better. But you're telling me that? Are you telling me that did not happen?
there's no statistically significant difference between the people who
Wow.
imagined playing the concerto from those who actually practiced using their body. So, what this teaches us is the power of mindfulness. And just like you
Jeez.
were saying, is that the brain isn't great at determining the difference between imagination and reality. And so when we imagine I'm on a cliff and I have that fearful blast of wind and I feel like I'm going to fall off, is the brain's like, oh crap, that happened. And you're going to have this response as though it really did, even though it was imagination. And we can leverage the power of imagination for the reverse. So you can do this exercise every day until you imagine going around that curve and feel calm and confident, where you feel elation. And then when you go and do it again, that you can actually start to create the response that you want to have. And that's why we know anxiety can be healed, is because the brain and the nervous system are so incredibly adaptive. It's just a matter of believing it and doing it.
Now I know why we started this conversation. You said people have hope now after reading your book. This is very hopeful. This is one of the most hopeful
Yes.
conversations personally I've had for my specific anxiety. Final
Yes.
question, and I will let you go, I
Yes.
promise. So my mom is afraid of heights, which is the reason I think I'm partially afraid of heights. I don't know, but now me having a son, I'm very aware. Like I don't want to chicken out or say, no, I can't do that, or don't want to do that, like in front of him, or show a fear of heights. If I do that, is there the possibility I transfer my fears onto him? And like, how aware do I need to be in situations like that where perhaps I don't show that to him or just let mom go do that thing with him so he doesn't see how I may be reacting? How does that work?
I love that question. And I think that that will be a continually evolving process because he's going to be looking at you for cues
Hmm.
on how safe is everything.
Yep.
And our kids are always watching, and that's a lot of pressure on a parent. So when he's really little, it might be like, daddy's going to hang out down here and you're going to have this adventure with mommy. You're going to have so much fun. And so you may not even communicate to him
Right.
how you're feeling. But then as he gets older, you can start talking to him about, sometimes we feel worried. And even though it is safe to go up on this height, I'm working on my worry and honoring that. And so you're brave and you can go with mom if you want. You can start to have those conversations. So then when he feels worried, he's okay. He's like, "Oh, that's a normal feeling. I know
Mm.
that feelings aren't facts and I know how to honor myself and how to push myself because he's seen you do it."
But if he were to see me get scared and break down and panic, would that leave a lasting imprint on his mind? Because I get the feeling that it would.
You can It depends on the age. If he's, let's say that he's 10
Mhm.
and you have a reaction and then you come to him afterward and say, dad had a hard moment there, didn't he?
Mm.
And sometimes we have hard moments. And even though it might have been scary for you to see me having a hard moment, is I want you to know that it's okay and that we can always change and we
Yeah.
can always grow. And so you can turn it into a teaching experience.
Mm. I love that. I think everything's a teaching experience. Just like this
Yeah.
podcast, I know you taught a lot of people. I know we have to wrap it up here. I want to give you the platform to allow people to find you and work with you because my God, like if you can really lift people's veils of anxiety that they've been dealing with for so long, that's just completely life changing. Life changing. You
Yeah.
live once. I can't
Yeah.
just imagine being so anxious all the time. So to work with somebody that can lift some of that and make someone feel so much better, invaluable. So where can people find you and work with you?
Yeah, I have an online wellness collective. My heart was to create a group where people can have 24/7 access to all my online, and I actually have them all in a chat thing. So every single piece of information that I've ever taught on, my whole book, my audiobook, it's all uploaded there. So you can just ask your question and get an instant answer from my
Amazing.
programmed thing. I also do live teaching, live question and answer, mentorship, and it's all in a holistic wellness collective, which is really, really low monthly barrier to entry. And so come find me there. You can learn about it on Instagram. I love hanging out with people on Instagram. So if you want to just connect, find me at Dr. Nicole Cain. And Ryan and I hang out on Instagram
We
together
do.
too.
It's the
It's
best.
fun. It's the
Yes.
best.
You're the
Yeah.
best. And welcome back anytime. I know there was like all these different avenues. Every time we come on, we open up new doors and we got to walk through them. So anytime you want, come on back and we'll continue this.
Your homework, Ryan, is to do your amygdala de-amplification on that memory. And then I want a testimonial of how
Okay.
life-changing it is.
Okay. That's what this is all about. The pursuit of
Yeah.
happiness is my pursuit of happiness. I'm putting myself through this. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you. I honor you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're the best.